I still remember the exact moment when my entire world crumbled around me. It was 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, when I found myself staring at my computer screen, my hands trembling uncontrollably as I scrolled through hundreds of deleted messages that my wife had exchanged with not just her lover, but with her lawyer, planning to destroy me completely. What I discovered wasn't just an affair. It was a calculated conspiracy to take everything from me: my children, my home, my reputation, even my freedom. And she almost succeeded. But let me start from the beginning, because what I'm about to share with you is the story of how technology saved me from losing everything, and how the digital footprints we leave behind can reveal the darkest truths about the people we think we know. My name is Michael, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. A beautiful home in the suburbs of Boston, 2 amazing kids, Emma, 9, and Ethan, 7, and Sarah, my wife of 11 years. We met in college, both computer science majors, though she switched to marketing before graduating. I went on to become a software developer, while she built a successful career in digital marketing. On paper, we were the ideal couple, financially stable, respected in our community, raising 2 wonderful children. But here's the thing about perfect lives: they often hide the most shocking secrets. The first sign appeared on a rainy Sunday in April. Sarah had been acting different, more distant, always on her phone, smiling at text messages and quickly turning the screen away when I approached. Classic red flags, I know, but when you've been with someone for over a decade, you give them the benefit of the doubt. You create excuses. She's just stressed about the Peterson account. She's planning a surprise for our anniversary. The human mind is remarkably good at denying what it doesn't want to see. That Sunday, Sarah had left her phone on the kitchen counter while taking a shower. A notification popped up, a text from someone named Karen from work. It simply read, "Can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Last time was incredible." Now, Sarah did have a colleague named Karen, so this might have been completely innocent, but something about the wording felt off. When I asked her about it casually, her reaction told me everything I needed to know. "Why are you checking my phone?" she snapped, her face flushing. "That's private," I apologized. Explained I had just seen the notification pop up. She softened, claimed it was about a successful client meeting they'd had. But that night I noticed her passcode change, and that's when the knot in my stomach began to form. You need to understand something about me. I'm not the jealous type. I've never been controlling or possessive, but I'm also not naive. The next week was torture, watching her carefully, noticing patterns. Late nights at the office, new clothes, more attention to her appearance, weekend work emergencies that required her immediate attention. The classic signs were all there, but I needed proof before confronting her. I needed to be certain. This is where I need to pause and acknowledge that what I did next falls into an ethical gray area. I'm not proud of it, but I was desperate and afraid. As a software developer with a background in cybersecurity, I had the skills to do something most people can't. I created a clone of her phone. Wait, before you judge me or try this yourself, this isn't something I recommend. It's potentially illegal depending on where you live, and it's definitely an invasion of privacy. But my instincts were screaming that something terrible was happening, and I needed to know the truth to protect myself and possibly my children. The process took me 3 days of careful planning. I needed her phone for about 30 minutes when she was home but distracted. I chose a Saturday morning when she always took the kids to swimming lessons. I told her I had a work emergency and couldn't join them. As soon as they left, I got to work. Using specialized software I had access to through my job, which is normally used for legitimate security testing, I created a perfect mirror of her phone. All her apps, messages, emails, photos, everything. This mirror would update whenever her phone connected to our home Wi-Fi network. Again, I'm not sharing this to encourage anyone. This was a desperate measure in a desperate situation. But what I found, God, nothing could have prepared me for what I found. The first discovery was exactly what I had feared. Sarah was indeed having an affair, not with some random guy, but with Jason, my former best friend from college. The same Jason who had been a groomsman at our wedding. The same Jason who was godfather to our son. The betrayal cut deep on multiple levels. Their affair had been going on for 7 months. 7 months of lies, of looking me in the eye over family dinners while texting him under the table. The messages were explicit, detailed, cruel. They would meet at a hotel downtown during her late nights at the office. They would laugh about how oblivious I was. "He actually believes I'm working on the Peterson account," she had texted him once, followed by laughing emojis. Each message was like a knife twisting in my chest. But that's not even the part that destroyed me, because as I continued digging through their conversations, I found something far more sinister than just an affair. I talked to the lawyer yesterday. She had written to Jason 3 weeks earlier. He says with his abuse history, I can get the house, full custody, and at least 70% of his assets. Abuse history? What abuse history? I had never laid a hand on Sarah or spoken to her abusively in all our years together. I sat there staring at the screen in complete confusion. The next message made my blood run cold. "I've been documenting incidents for the past 2 months," she wrote, taking photos of bruises from the gym and saying he did it. "I've told Emma to say Daddy gets very angry sometimes." The lawyer says with a child's testimony, "It's basically a slam dunk." My heart nearly stopped. She was coaching our 9-year-old daughter to lie about me being abusive. She was photographing fake injuries. She was building a false case against me, one that could destroy my life, take my children away, and potentially even land me in jail. But there was more. So much more. As I kept scrolling through their messages, the full extent of their plan unfolded before my eyes. Sarah had been systematically transferring small amounts of our joint savings to a private account for months. She had secretly consulted with 3 different divorce attorneys before finding one willing to pursue the strategy she wanted. She had even researched which judges in our county were most sympathetic to domestic abuse claims and was trying to figure out how to get her case assigned to one of them. "Once the restraining order is in place," she wrote to Jason, "he'll have to leave the house immediately. I'll have changed the locks by the time he's allowed to collect his things." The lawyer says with the abuse claims, I can get emergency custody of the kids that same day. They had planned everything down to the smallest detail. The date was even set. 2 weeks from that very day I was reading these messages. She was going to call the police on Friday night, when Jason would be conveniently available to come support her after the incident. I felt physically sick. The room was spinning. The mother of my children, the woman I had loved and trusted for 11 years, was methodically planning to destroy me based on horrible lies. And she was involving our innocent daughter in this scheme. But wait, it gets worse. Because as I kept digging through the deleted data, I found conversations between Sarah and her sister Melissa. Unlike Jason, Melissa wasn't entirely comfortable with the plan. "Are you sure you need to go this far?" She had texted Sarah. "Divorce is one thing, but false abuse claims, that could really destroy him." Sarah's response chilled me to the bone. "I deserve the house and the kids after everything I've sacrificed. He makes 3 times what I do. You think I'm going to walk away with just 50%? The abuse angle is the only way to make sure I get what I deserve. Besides, men like him always land on their feet. Men like him? I had supported her career, been an involved father, handled more than my share of household responsibilities. What exactly had she sacrificed that I hadn't?" Melissa still seemed hesitant. "But what about the kids? Won't this trauma them?" "They'll adjust," Sarah replied. And I'll make sure they know their father still loves them. I'm not a monster, Mel. Not a monster? My hands were shaking so badly I could barely continue scrolling. I had just uncovered a plot so calculated, so devoid of empathy, that I couldn't reconcile it with the woman I thought I knew. But here's where the story takes another turn, because what I found next completely blindsided me. In a separate conversation with Jason, Sarah revealed another motive. Once this is all settled, we can finally be together openly. I'm thinking we could move to the West Coast. Maybe San Diego? Fresh start. Away from everyone who knows us. She wasn't just planning to take my money, my home, and my children. She was planning to move them across the country to start a new life with my former best friend. My children would be raised by the man who had betrayed me, thousands of miles away where I'd struggled to remain a part of their lives. At this point, I was no longer sad. I was no longer shocked. I was furious and scared and determined not to let this happen. But I needed to be smart. If I confronted Sarah directly, she might accelerate her plans. If I told friends or family, she could spin it as me being paranoid or abusive. I needed evidence that would hold up in court, and I needed professional advice. The next morning, after a sleepless night, I called in sick to work and contacted a divorce attorney. Not one of the 3 Sarah had consulted, but one recommended by a colleague who had gone through a difficult divorce himself. I couldn't tell if my phone had been compromised, so I used a burner phone purchased with cash to make the call. I met with the attorney, Barbara Stein, that same afternoon. I brought printouts of the most damning messages, careful not to reveal exactly how I had obtained them, but making it clear I had digital evidence of a conspiracy. Barbara's face grew increasingly grave as she reviewed the documents. "This is extraordinary," she said finally. "I've seen some ugly divorce strategies, but coaching a child to make false abuse claims, this is not just unethical, it could be criminal." She advised me to gather as much evidence as possible without alerting Sarah to my knowledge. We needed bank statements showing the transfers. We needed to document any interactions with Emma where Sarah might be coaching her. And most importantly, we needed to be ready to counter the false abuse claims the moment they surfaced. "Do not move out of the house, no matter what," Barbara emphasized. "That can be construed as abandonment in some cases. And start recording all interactions with your wife. Check if your state allows one-party consent for recordings." Fortunately, Massachusetts is a one-party consent state. I began recording every conversation with Sarah using an app on my phone. I set up cameras in the common areas of our house, the living room, kitchen, and main hallway, under the guise of increased security after a break-in at a neighbor's house. I made copies of all financial documents and secured them in a safe deposit box at a different bank than the one we used. For the next 10 days, I lived with my would-be destroyer. I smiled at breakfast. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings. I asked about her day every evening, all while knowing she was planning to detonate my life. It was the most difficult acting job imaginable. I also spent more time with my children, especially Emma. Without being obvious, I gently tried to determine if Sarah had indeed been coaching her. One evening, while helping Emma with homework, I deliberately knocked a book off the table, making a loud noise. Emma flinched noticeably. "Are you okay, sweetie?" I asked. She looked anxious. "I don't like loud noises. Mom says they remind me of when you get angry." My heart sank. It was already happening. Carefully, I asked, "Do I get angry a lot, Emma?" She seemed confused, looked toward the door as if checking if Sarah was nearby, then whispered, "Mom says I'm supposed to remember that you do, for the special man coming to talk to us soon." It took everything in me not to break down. My own child was being weaponized against me. That night, I sent the recording of this conversation to Barbara. The next day, we accelerated our timeline. Barbara filed for divorce on grounds of adultery and conspiring to file false reports. She also requested emergency temporary custody based on parental alienation and the psychological manipulation of our children. 2 days before Sarah planned to make her false police report, I came home early from work. The house was empty. Sarah had taken the kids to her sister's for the afternoon. With Barbara's advice, I had arranged for a digital forensics expert to properly document the evidence from the phone clone, creating a legally admissible record. When Sarah returned with the children, she found me sitting calmly at the dining room table. Across from me sat Barbara and a court-appointed guardian ad litem who had been assigned to our case due to the serious allegations involving the children. "What's going on?" Sarah asked, her face immediately suspicious. "Who are these people?" "Shh, kids," I said gently. "Please go up to your rooms for a little while. Emma, please take your brother and show him that new game on your iPad." Once the children were upstairs, Barbara introduced herself as my attorney. The color drained from Sarah's face. "We know everything, Sarah," I said quietly. "The affair with Jason, the plan to falsely accuse me of abuse, the coaching of Emma, the secret bank accounts, everything." She tried to deny it at first, then tried to paint me as the villain, exactly as I'd expected. But when Barbara began reading specific text messages aloud, including dates and times, Sarah's denials crumbled. "Those are private!" she finally screamed. "You hacked my phone! That's illegal!" "What's illegal?" Barbara countered calmly. "Is filing false police reports, committing perjury, financial fraud, parental alienation. Shall I continue?" The guardian ad litem, Ms. Winters, spoke up. "Mrs. Collins, these allegations are extremely serious. I've already interviewed Emma this morning at her school, with the principal present. She told me that you've been telling her to say her father gets angry and scary, even though she doesn't think that's true." Sarah collapsed into a chair, her carefully constructed plan disintegrating before her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I just wanted what you deserve." I finished for her, quoting her own words from the text to her sister. "Well, now you'll get exactly what you deserve." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. The judge granted me temporary custody of the children, while Sarah underwent psychological evaluation. The evidence of her conspiracy was so overwhelming that her own attorney advised her to settle rather than face potential criminal charges for planning to file false reports. In the end, I received primary physical custody of the children. Sarah got supervised visitation pending completion of therapy and parenting classes. The house was sold, and the proceeds split equally after the money she had secretly transferred was returned to me. It was a fair settlement, far more fair than what she had planned for me. As for Jason, he disappeared from our lives completely once he realized Sarah wouldn't be bringing her planned windfall into their relationship. Last I heard, he moved to Chicago alone. Sarah's sister Melissa eventually reached out to apologize for not warning me, though our relationship remains strained. It's been 6 months now. The children and I live in a new house, in the same school district, so their lives weren't completely disrupted. We're all in therapy, me to process the betrayal, them to understand the changes in our family in an age-appropriate way. Emma knows now that she was being asked to say things that weren't true, though we've been careful not to demonize her mother. Sarah is following her treatment plan and slowly rebuilding a relationship with the kids through supervised visits. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her completely, but for our children's sake, I'm trying to maintain a civil co-parenting relationship. As for me, I've changed. I'm more cautious, less trusting, but also stronger, more independent. I've learned that sometimes the person sleeping next to you for years can become a stranger, or perhaps was always a stranger in some ways. And I've learned the most important lesson of all. In today's digital world, the truth always leaves a trail. The messages we delete, the lies we tell, the facades we maintain. They all leave digital footprints that can't be completely erased. Technology revealed the painful truth that saved me and my children from a terrible fate. So if you're watching this and something feels wrong in your relationship, trust your instincts. Look for the signs. Protect yourself and your children. And remember that in the end, the truth has a way of surfacing, one deleted message at a time. The truth set me free, but first, it shattered everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and the woman who was supposed to be my partner for life.